Chuck, what's going on, man?
Yo. Check my gear out.
There it is, the
fusionZONE.
logo.
Good, Mike.
I
How
need
you
to get
doing?
with Ed. I still need mine, you
Get you
know?
some merch, man.
Need to, man. Wear the colors. Wear the good. How you been, man?
So I've been good. I can't complain. Loving the cooler weather. It's not scorching hot outside no more. I can't complain. Sitting in front of the window today. How about yourself?
Yeah, kind of the same, man. I enjoy this time of the year. Fall football's in full gear. You got some playoff baseball, basketball's kicking back up. Like you said,
Oh,
weather in Texas. Got to just
oh
kind of
yeah. If you're
enjoy
a
the little
sports
bits
fan,
you
this is the
get.
best time of the year. If you're a sports fan, this is the best time of the year. Football, they pushing, preseason basketball, baseball, they trying to get to the chip. And so
Hmm.
yeah, this is great right now. Definitely.
Definitely. The other thing that's very rampant this time of the year, of course, little segue, is evaluating business. So this is
Oh,
that time of the year. You're heading to Q4.
last
No
quarter,
matter
exactly.
doesn't
Last
matter
quarter.
what business you're in, right? Like you're looking at
Mhm.
your numbers, you're looking at sales, you're looking at how do we head towards the holiday season and set ourselves up for success.
Yeah.
So,
Q4 is that time where you sit back and evaluate what we've done, right? And
hmm
then kind of set forth on what we need to do next year, right? And you
right.
start to put that in place. You're absolutely right. It's that
Well, and it
time.
is important, right? Because you want to know what's working, you want to know what's not working. If you're doing something like SEO, social media, you can throw a lot of things at the wall, so to say, and test it
Hmm.
out. If it's PPC though, or it's, TV, radio, anything that's costing you budget, you really got to know that your dollars are being spent well, right?
Yeah, you
So
want to see that ROI.
it makes perfect sense, right? But I will say the reason we're having this conversation as part of a little series of Q4 best practices and so on. Part of the reason we're having this is making sure that people are focusing on the right things because in today's world, info overload, data
Hmm.
analysis, analysis by paralysis, all kind of different things, way too many numbers to look at. It can get easy to really become, just buried in data and get lost in what matters the most.
Yep. Yeah, you can get overloaded easily and then get distracted, more or less distracted by what's actually
Right.
important. As you kind of look at Q4, you begin to look at what success is. You're evaluating your success for the year, right? You starting this in the last quarter. What does that success look like? What is that success? Right, and if we're
Right.
talking to in the automotive industry, right, then you're talking to a dealership. Success is selling more cars, right? Which is
Yep.
kind of the obvious, but from a more granular perspective, right? What is success? Success is quality leads. Success is the opportunity to close. Success is building the funnel. Success is decent conversion rates, right? Right.
Yeah.
That's what success is, right? And so, in order to get the overall success, which leads to car sales, right, or truck sales, or RV sales, car repairs, or whatever
Right.
whatever your goal is, whatever you call success, right? And so you're absolutely right. I think we'll kind of talk about some of those granular things that help
Yeah.
evaluate, what success really is.
So years past, before 2019, this is around that time of the year where new models are coming out, new model year. You're dumping all your old inventory out, trying to lay off your previous model year inventory. You're gearing up towards the end of the year. Of course, this year, last year, very unconventional, maybe the new normal, but got inventory challenges. You've
Hmm.
got, of course, a pandemic that has forced people to accelerate their relationship with technology. So you've got a lot
Hmm.
of different factors that we haven't had in the past that now need to be kind of considered when you are doing the evaluation. And the reason why I bring that up is I think a lot of what people do today, especially in the automotive side, they're going to look at cars sold, which of
Yep.
course that's going to give you your profits,
Bottom
right?
line. Yep.
Exactly. So cars sold. There are people that are going to look at foot traffic, which
Hmm.
that's a little bit of a dated ideology, right? Because people used to go lot lizards, so to say, look around, look at different things, different lots, gather their research. That's not how it is anymore, especially in today's pandemic era where technology has really taken over. I think the average
Go for
visit,
that.
it's
That,
about
and
what,
then with
one and a
our
half
shopper.
visits, right? 1.5 dealership visits
Exactly.
per purchase. So that's for every 2 buyers, that's 3 visits. So if you're going solely off foot traffic, I mean, you might as well just count your number of sales. If they're at your store, they're gonna buy. They're gonna buy,
Pretty
right?
much, there's a high percentage that they're there for that reason, right? Unless for some
Exactly.
reason you don't have the car that they thought you had. Well, and then we discussed previously that we know that over 33% of the current buyers are millennials, right? And so they just shop different.
Right.
They're going online, and
Communicate
so
different.
they communicate different. The whole experience is different, and so they're not lot lizards, like you said. They're not. That's
Right.
the last thing they're gonna do. And so you're absolutely right. When you evaluate success, yeah,
Right.
you can't just look at cars sold.
So we want to talk about some of the things that you should look at, right? Some of the things that you should measure, right? So I'm a big believer of measuring people actually taking action. And by that, I mean reaching out to the business, either in a form fill, which those are few and further between based on today's day and age, and primarily phone calls, scheduled test drives, things of that nature. Like actual, hey, I want to come to your business and actually do something. They are making contact. That's the kind of thing that I like to measure. You'll hear a lot in the industry, people measuring impression share. And, again, these data points exist for a reason. They're important, but I don't think that they're the most important. Impression share, you're basically saying how many eyes are seeing my business. Yeah, I mean, that's a good correlation for things down the line, but there's nothing actionable about that. You could have 1 million people looking at your dealership, but if your marketing mix is all over the place and you don't have compelling calls to action, then it's a vanity number. Yeah, everybody looks at our stuff. How many people are buying? How many people are leads? So those are the actions I'm paying attention to.
And so when you look at those actions, let me jump in there for a second, because you brought up impression share, right? And then you also said that the actions that you're more interested in are like conversion, right? And so we know that on the digital side, we know that conversion is really just the how many impressions you had, right? Right, divided by how many clicks you actually received, and then you get your click through rate, right? And so when we talk about the actions that we're more interested in seeing that really define success, I think click through rate is one of those, right?
Oh yeah.
You mentioned earlier about, and when you're doing paid ads, right, and you're looking for a certain return on that investment, and it's important that your click through rate, that you're getting the right amount of return for what you're spending. And so that's why when you brought up impressions, I was like, yeah, that's going down the path of how we get to the actions that we want. And it's true. It's true. I hear a lot of conversation about people looking at views and how many times I was seen. And you're right. It's really not about that. That's fine. It's part of the equation, but it's more about the actual engagement, what they do after they actually saw your ad or saw your building or saw your brand. What action did they take?
Because it becomes very easy, I think, for people to pay attention to the little minutiae and this, that, and the other. If you see red or you see something going backwards, alert, alert, alert. I've seen a lot of people in this industry now wanting to track any and every action on your website, which again, fine to have that data, but as long as you know the ones that matter the most. If you're tracking video views or photo views, that might be part of a journey. You should understand your journey and what your customer looks like when they hit the site all the way to the purchase. But, if you're looking at, hey,
all the way down the funnel, right?
All the way down the funnel. But I think it also, you can see people get caught up in, oh, well, video views are down. Okay, well, maybe people know more about what they want to buy and they're going straight to the finish line now, right? Or, hey, we've got people hitting the site, but we don't have as many engagements on this page. Well, maybe that page is no longer a relevant part of that journey. So let's focus on the 4 things that do matter. And on the PPC side, I like to say they're the 4 C's, right? These are the 4 things that we really like to focus on. One of them you already mentioned, click-through rate. Click-through rate tells me a couple of different things. One, it tells me how compelling the ad is. Somebody saw the ad, how much of a push did it actually have in having somebody engage with it? Now, in the industry, 4 to 6% is about the benchmark. If you're beyond that, you're doing well. We routinely see, 7, 8, 9%. So that's one of the most important metrics, because are you reaching your audience? Is your message getting across? Do people care enough to engage with the ad that's in front of them? So the first one I look at is click-through rate for sure.
And that's important because we talk about where these users are coming from, right? We're talking search, right? And so this is a search, probably on a mobile device, right? and so the first thing they did was clicked, right?
Yep.
First thing they did was clicked. And so now this is top of the funnel. Okay, yay. They've clicked and we got them in our funnel. So you're right. That should be one of the first 4 C's. Definitely.
Now, another one of those batting average type numbers that I like to look at too is conversion rate. That's probably the most important, because somebody can see an ad, click on it, it shows how effective your ad is, how compelling the ad is. But once they get to the site, if they're not converting, then either the page wasn't very good, maybe what you promised didn't really come to fruition when they got where they needed to go. Conversion rate's most important to me, because that shows how many people you're reaching actually are interested, how many are qualified, are actually in the market. So, conversion rates can be somewhere in that 6 to 10% range. We typically will see well beyond that, right? We'll typically see conversion rates that are routinely, 13 to 15%. And the reason why I mention that is focusing on that is going to kind of weed out some of the, I guess, less qualified or the folks that are going to tie up your sales team but aren't really truly interested in buying. And that's why I think the conversion rate is all that much more important too.
Conversion rate is the most important metric to me, Mike, because it is the one metric that's directly tied to the end user, right? Yeah. Like we talked about the click-through rate, right? And so the conversion rate uses a similar equation, right? Only difference is this is for people who've already made it to your site, and now they are how many of those people are actually taking an action, right? How many of them are requesting a test drive or scheduling an appointment or scheduling an oil change or getting directions to come to the lot? How many will pick up the phone and call? All of these different actions that we call conversion, right? Right. Because all of those are our conversion actions. What percentage of those people who came from the click actually do that? And so that's where we can tie it down to the person. I think we mentioned it before about the importance of having some type of CRM in place, or customer relations management tool for those type of purposes, so we can track back and say this person searched for Honda CRV dealership near me, they landed on this page, they looked at this ad, and now they requested a test drive on this date, and we have all this information in the system that we can go back and refer to. Conversion rate is extremely important. Definitely.
And then the last two that I would bring up to keep it within that 4 C's are cost metrics, right? And those are going to be cost per click and cost per lead, cost per conversion. So the first one, cost per click. In our industry, you'll see anywhere from $2 to $2.50 per click is, a fairly comfortable range. We'll typically see maybe closer to $1.50. And then cost per lead, this is a very important metric too. Now, granted, the quality of the lead comes into play, but if you're looking at some sources out there, we have to pay several $100s per lead. That's not a very efficient use of your spend. With PPC, you should be looking at about $33 or less within the automotive realm. Ours are about 15 to 20 routinely. And again, it's because we focus on these 4 things. And I think a lot of the time marketers can frustrate the business side by asking them, what's your goal? It depends, right? It's always an it depends kind of thing. But you can say, all right, our goal is to focus in on these 4 things. We can maximize our efforts on those 4 things, bring you leads for less money, stretch your dollar, obviously get you more clicks for your budget, help you hit at a better batting average, and help you close people a little bit more proficiently. You tell Google what you want to optimize for, and Google will reward you. If you're saying, hey, we just want a bunch of eyes, okay, we'll get anybody, literally anybody that's willing to look at your ads, whether or not they're going to care to click or convert, we'll give you that. Google will help you if you tell them what you want, but that's why I think it's
Yep,
so important to understand what it is that you want so you can help
exactly.
Google help you.
Well, not just that. I think that one of the assets we provide is actually controlling the landing experience, right?
Yep.
So when we talk about a great CTR or having a great conversion rate or even having a decent cost per click, frankly, is because of the landing experience. We know
Yes.
that in the Google Ads environment and even in a Bing Ads environment, the landing experience is crucial to your quality score and to the performance of your ad, right? And so since we have, sites that we can design that are designed for dealerships, that are designed to cater to user experience, that designed to kind of walk them through the funnel we're talking about, then we end up with a lower cost per click. We end up with a
Right.
lower cost per acquisition and a higher conversion rate. Because we were in charge of both, right? Creating the ad, dictating what it said, and then dictating the landing page experience as well. And so that's kind of the benefit I think of. I know it's later in our notes about having the agency, right? But that's one
Yeah.
of those benefits is that you don't have a PPC agency sending requests or notes to a whole nother design firm, right? Who's
Right.
managing your site, right? That's a convoluted and costly experience. And so when you have them all in one bundle, right? All in one
Yeah.
bundle, working seamlessly together, yeah, you can get lower cost per clicks than the industry. You can get higher conversion rates than the industry just because of the resources. So,
Well, I'm
absolutely.
glad you bring that up about, kind of keeping things under one roof. I think
Hmm.
in general, it's very common sense to say, all right, well, you have every, same agency handling all your digital marketing. It's going to be connected. It's going to be cohesive. It's going to be a unified strategy. And that's easy to just kind of say and slap as a logo and say, look, all in one spot. But if you're talking about the actual pieces to that, you want your SEO team talking to your PPC team because
Yes.
they're looking at the same kind of keywords and they can say,
Hmm.
hey, I can see on the PPC side that keyword's getting expensive. Let me do some stuff on the organic side to bulk up the website presence, or just like you said, add things to the landing page. The landing
Yep.
page experience is better. You might not have to bid as much on that keyword. So, having the teams working in concert together and saying, all right, well, the dealership name campaign, that's common. That's a common, uh, you know,
Branding
50-50
situation. Yeah.
combo, right? But you
Hmm.
want to have that to defend and also to make sure that you're catching those low funnel people. If they're looking for your dealership, probably going to buy, right? We just talked about if they're
Yeah.
visiting the dealership, they've made up their mind, right? So I think it's very important to keep in mind if you have it all under one roof, it can connect. You can lower your cost per click. You can lower your cost per conversion by having your agency all in one roof, under one roof,
Hmm.
working together to have this full funnel and, knowing your role, right? Knowing your lane and exactly where to
Man,
fit into that.
Mike, you made me think of something. I got a lot of agency experience, right? One of the things I've learned to do, especially when doing, kind of paid ads and SEO at the same time, is you learn. Paid ads give you the opportunity to learn the value of keywords really quickly, right? Compared to
Yeah.
SEO,
You
right?
see the
And
cost.
so yeah, we can run campaigns and put a budget behind it and determine how engaged the audience was, how many conversions we received, and compare to some other term, and whichever term kind of worked the best, then you can go and kind of start optimizing, right? Because now you know for sure you're optimizing for a term that converted well for you, that has
Right.
decent engagement for you, versus not taking the time to do that research and going after what words you think you should be going after, and you rank for it, but it's not the right word, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
engage well, it doesn't get the results you want, and more importantly, you took 6 months, a year, SEO can take time, just depends, to
Right.
get to that position only to find out is really not the right term, right? And so I've been using PPC for that perspective, right? Let's run
Right.
paid campaigns for these target keywords before we start optimizing, just to kind of see what'll happen.
Well, I think that's another good thing too when you're looking at evaluating your marketing success is
Mm-hmm.
how much volume are these keywords actually getting?
Mm.
It's kind of like impression share is one of those industry, oh, you got to have it, but it's kind of a vanity metric more than anything. I would
Yep.
also say, long tail keywords. Those are things that people can really get caught up in and say, oh, we need to be ranking for all of these. I think you also need to understand the volume, right? Because you might say, I need a 2021 Honda Accord leather seats, Sugarland, Texas. Maybe you get 1 to 2 of those searches per month. So if you're like, oh, we're not showing up, okay, well, you're missing out on 1 to 2 possible opportunities. If you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
let's dedicate so much budget to that set of keywords, and then you're also duplicating that for every possible Honda Accord, Honda
Yeah,
Civic,
every
Honda
make and
CRV,
model. Mm-hmm.
you're going to really eat up your budget quick. And if you're operating with a thinner budget, that can become problematic. I'm not saying don't go into long tail keywords, but actually back it up with search volume. See if there is search volume. And if you're looking at this as a grander evaluation, instead of just looking at your general site traffic or how much, ins and outs, you got to look at how you're doing against the competition. Your website traffic might be down 10%, but all your competitors are down 20%. So I think evaluating keyword volume and understanding what kind of opportunities you're gaining or missing out on, that's a very important factor of the evaluation process.
That, and then I think leveraging your OEM's resources, right? And what I mean by that is like if we're
Tier
talking
one, tier two, let them do their part.
exactly, or we're talking indie dealerships, and that's one thing, right? But if we're talking where you kind of designated under an OEM, then you know what brands are coming out. You
Yep.
know what marketing push they're gonna do. You know which make and model that they're gonna
Yep.
release. You have that information, and so you can update accordingly, right? Update your landing pages, create the right blog posts, create the right campaigns to support what you know is coming down the line, right?
Right.
Just because you're literally selling for this OEM, and so it's about evaluating all of that stuff, or
Well, and
evaluating all of it.
that's why the manufacturer set it up that way. Honda's
Mm-hmm.
goal is to sell the consumer on Honda. Honda, tier two, if there's regional, they're basically saying, buy here, and then the tier three, the dealership level is buy now. That's you got
Mm-hmm.
to win your backyard. So your goal might not necessarily be let me sell you on Honda itself. It's I need to sell you on the dealership itself. This is
Yeah.
where differentiators, unique selling propositions,
Mm-hmm.
what represents your brand, not Honda, but Chuck Lewis Honda. Like what
Yeah,
makes Chuck
exactly.
Lewis Honda stand out?
Separate from the
And
other Honda dealership. Mm-hmm.
exactly. So that's another thing when you're looking at when you're evaluating your success on the marketing side. Look at your keyword volume, but also understand that if it's such a broad term like Honda, the OEM is probably going to do a lot of that work for you.
Exactly. You
So
don't have to focus on brand. You can focus
right.
on more actionable things like getting directions or calling now and scheduling the test drive because the OEM is already they're taking care of the brand marketing for you.
Right. So I think our next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about, the parts of the funnel, where the different digital advertising pieces can come in and impact that. As far as like a
Yep.
little teaser here, I think it's also important to understand, first off, the parts of the funnel. So you've got the high part.
Or that there you go. I was
Yeah.
just going there. And the fact that SEO and kind of paid search are really top parts of the funnel. Like, unfortunately, they come at a cost, right? Either whatever you're paying your agency or whatever you're spending for a budget, and likely both, right? So they come at a cost, and it's top of the funnel,
Right.
And so depending on what kind of car you're selling, right? I think it depends on determine how long your funnel is,
Right.
and so if this is a $20,000 car or $100,000 car, right? It's gonna probably determine how many steps it takes to close the deal. And so,
And it's important too because we talked about how the market is kind of all over the place, upside down right now. We don't have the cars, we can't sell them. Let's just turn off PPC. Not quite. You might not have the cars to sell right now, but you also don't want to let your guy down the street really nurture this lead and show them why their service drive is better and all the things that they do for new car clinics. And hey, we also have a dog appreciation day, whatever the case is. they're in there. They're gonna
And we
be
offer free car washes with every oil change. They just get to
right.
see these things because you're not marketing. Yep.
Brand your business, bring people to it outside of just buying a car. And I mean, treat the customer, build that community, because when inventory levels do come back, you want to make it an obvious choice. So
I agree.
probably a good stopping point for today. Any last remarks we want to throw in there?
No, I would just say that while we're talking about evaluating success, right? Just I think it's clear that our dealership owners, our service repair owners, that they just kind of keep a clear understanding of how they define success,
Right.
right? Because we can evaluate success, but just understand what is success to you, and then you can define it, and you can evaluate it. And so I think that's my major point.
Well, good time as always. Good information, and we'll keep sending out gems your way. So we want to hear feedback from everybody watching. What are some of the challenges you all are facing? What are some of the things that you're doing with your marketing evaluation? Love to see the conversation go, so don't hesitate to reach out. Be sure to tune in next time, and we are going to continue this Q4 playbook talk space going. So
Yes,
be sure to tune in. Thanks, Chuck.